playmaking champions, but we are into the draft here. Vici will start game one off on the blue side, M3 on the red. Sejuani Z banned away there, so already targeting Dade there with a ban in the mid lane. And Rek'Sai and Twisted Fate, now a must ban against Setong.
I think global champions in general, of course, Rek'Sai effectively a global champion, especially if you're winning and get that neural network, the tunnel's really in the advantage. And Twisted Fate, I feel like that really opens up Vici to play so aggressive. They already love to overextend for farm. The likes of Vici, known for years as very aggressive laners. Anything that allows them to react faster than the enemy, Twisted Fate Destiny, the tunnel network coming through from Rek'Sai, gives too much of a strategic advantage to Vici. So these are some really savvy bans coming through from the first two for M3.
And that's what M3 need here if they do want to take the game, or the series at least, or at least one game, and push themselves just over the line into playoffs. Janna, the last ban there for Vici, looking good so far. Again, targeting some of that away. Does take it away from Mata, but Mata certainly can play plenty of supports, and we've seen a big shift back towards Nautilus and the like. Cho'Gath, the last ban here, I do like it. Hetong being picked on a little bit, but that will open up everybody's favorite Kalista.
But do you pick Kalista when Urgot is available? SMLZ already a noted Urgot player. They lock it in anyway, and you have to think Urgot's going to come through here for M3.
Yeah, it looks like it is M3. Going to go through a couple more champions. Looper will flash Ryze just for a second. Kind of funny that we talk about Ryze being back. Looper also noted on that champion, so potentially a flex pick there for M3 if they do want to start playing more of it. We've already seen the power of Annie today, though, and I don't think M3 can pass it up.
I mean, Annie has been right back in the meta. Started off the season strong. It's hilarious to me that what was the go-to duo lane in week one is once again risen up. It was all about Sivir Annie, and once again, Sivir Annie is so popular. It looks like the Annie at least will be locked in.
Wow,
for M3
Condi
as well, though, Pastry Time. That is a flex pick Annie. We've seen multiple, not just one. We can't just write it off.
That's true.
2 different games in different weeks of Annie top. Okay, it was seen as a pseudo counter pick to Nah. I kind of question that given that it didn't win, but it is a flex pick for Looper.
Yeah, technically, yes, Looper has played it in the top lane in this split of the LPL, but Annie Lee's in the picks there for M3, and that screams aggression.
I mean, Condi, this is his champion that he came into the team on. This is definitely his most comfort pick, and comfort might be the way to go forward in game one at least. They've already got the Annie Lee Sin. They have a lot of pick power coming through in their first 2 picks. Nah already being considered.
Wait, what? Yeah, that's a Nah going picked up, but Fizz will get picked up as well by Vici.
That's going to be a Fizz jungle, is my guess. That's
yeah,
going to come through. That's the most likely place that it's going to be going to. Of course, it could still be Fizz top. We see Teleport, Ignite being the summoner spells. That does scream Fizz. That does scream Fizz if you ask me.
So where does the Nah go?
That is a good question.
That was my question. It's just like, yeah, Fizz top seems fine, especially for a player like Carry. I believe does have a play on it already as SMLZ insta-locking in the Urgot.
I mean, the Urgot is no surprise. I kind of expected almost just a secondary AD carry pick. Pick the Urgot to go with the Kalista, just because the lane matchup can be very tenuous. We have seen Kalista players win out in that matchup, but just on paper and over a large sample size, you have to hand it to Urgot. And Dade has had Ryze bans consistently this week, able to snap it off in the 4th round of pits very happily.
Yeah, Azir is open though, but chooses to take Ryze here, interestingly. So that's also blind, potentially, given that Fizz might not be in the mid lane and Nah's probably not landing. I mean, Vici are mixing it up quite a bit here with their 2nd and 3rd picks, but we'll give them a chance to see what they want to go in for their 4th and 5th here. We'll just give them a bit of time. Vici might be up to something here.
Okay, the Jace is a little bit on the nose coming through from Mata. Definitely probably not allowed to play that champion too much anymore. But they're considering their options in this case. Looks like the breaking of the meta is being considered with some of the picks. Blitzcrank's locked in.
Yes, Blitzcrank is locked in for Mata. A little bit of a smile there. And Orianna going to be that last pick. So I think your initial intuition was right, Papa Smithy. That is going to be Jungle Fizz.
Jungle Fizz. It's just a feast or farm champion. It's all about getting an early game snowball. Ryze is definitely a tenuous laner, so looking to maybe gank the mid lane in particular. Waiting to see if we see a top laner or a support picked up here for M3. Because you remember, this is actually the lane matchup that Annie was chosen into. Looper likes this Annie versus Nah matchup.
He does. I mean, he's at least picked it twice willingly in some LPL games. As we said, did not work out for him there, but that is interesting. Actually, that's really cool. I talked about it being a flex pick. I mentioned Azir was open. Thought Dade might be showing a little too much by picking Ryze so early, but it's actually Looper's Ryze, and Dade is going to last pick Azir.
Okay, while I like that intuition there, it's a good pickup, Pastry Time. I don't like it in this particular situation because the one criticism of Ryze, especially in the top lane, very easy to turret dive, and you've already got a Fizz jungle locked in. Fizz is so good at dropping the aggro from turret with the use of the playful Trickster. Now he's going to happily bully him in lane as a resourceless champion against a champion like Ryze, who needs to really use his mana judiciously between trading and last hitting. Looper is definitely opted into a very difficult jungle top lane matchup.
And you know what? That's not too surprising for me from Lupa. He's done this from time to time. If he does navigate the matchup, he'll get a big payoff at the end of the game. But that's where we'll start here. Nar versus Rise on the top side. And Lupa, he wants to go big carry this game.
Okay, but it is a very obvious potential lane for Fizz to be camping, is that top lane where Rise has very low base stats. We'll scale up into the late game. Orianna versus Azir, definitely going to be wave clear essentially.
Yeah, something we thought we'd see a bit more of, but haven't maybe seen as much of as Kalista Urgot down in the bottom side. Maybe a swap there for Vici is not a favorable matchup there, especially as the levels mount up. And Marta can have a bit of fun today versus the Blitzcrank versus the Annie.
You look at the hook targets. Rise in the late game, certainly not a hook target. You're probably going to want to get onto Azir, but he'll be able to push you away with the Emperor's Divide. And Urgot, most of the time, he's opting into being swapped into the middle of a team fight anyway. So not really screaming out as a Blitzcrank comp, at least, coming through for Vici. Whereas M3, they have a lot of comfort, but the early laning phase in particular could go horribly wrong.
Well, I have to say, Macho's definitely earned his Blitzcrank game, so I'll give it to him at least. He's played fantastically all season, so he'll take it if he wants to have maybe a bit of fun in their last game.
So far kept his craziness towards the Demacia Cup, not so much the LPL. So, you know, everyone gets a bit of a brain fade once in a while.
We'll see how Marta and the Blitzcrank does. We're about to get straight onto the Rift. And just becoming, guys, we do have a pause, unfortunately, to start the game. You can see Dandy very focused on his Jungle Fizz.
Yeah, the Jungle Fizz will be super interesting, just given the texture of this M3 comp that's put up. There is all these tenuous matchups. Probably not going to be ganking for Orianna early, not too much kill pressure in the mid lane onto Azir, but the top lane in particular we've mentioned. What about the lane swap? The lane swap is another question. Rise definitely not as good in the lane swap as Nar, and of course will then still be very turret diveable with the support AD carry duo. We're watching the crowd. They seem pretty hyped about
I got confused,
Master3.
by the way. It's Dade on the left. I thought it was Lupa. I was mistaken. There we go. Today I learned.
Today you learned. You are very on top of the banners.
Why is Lupa the sleepy one? That's definitely Dade.
I mean, he picks Annie top. That's a bit sleepy if you ask me.
Well, he's picked Rise top this game. It might be in the same sort of territory here. But, I mean, a confident pick here from M3. It's comfort, I think, definitely for the star solo landers here. Even SMLZ on a comfort champion like Urgot. In fact, all of M3 kind of looking through the lineup, it just screams, you know, game one, we need a win. Let's just play what we know and see what we can get done.
And it's a deceptively high damage comp. You see Urgot and you're like, okay, late game's going to be a bit of a wash. But Rise and Azir does so much consistent damage in the late game. The spells, the spell machine gun coming through in Rise, and of course the auto attacks doing magic damage on those Sand Soldiers coming through from Dade. So the late game looks just fine, and so much initiation and pick. We already saw ADG completely wreck OMG with the pick power of Annie, and we're talking now about Rise with the instant cast snare. Instant cast stun into instant cast snare between Rise and Annie. Definitely legacy champions with those instant casts. Not a lot of counterplay between those two. Azir, of course, can do some crazy things. The bouncy castle, always my personal favorite. If you get that Emperor's Divide next to a wall, and Urgot, less said about him, the better. The suppression initiation is powerful.
Yeah, pretty curious on the mid lane matchup, actually. We've seen Dade's Azir, what it can get done. 5.6, definitely seen a resurgence for that particular champion, but we were kind of thinking that with the changes to Athene's being a little bit cheaper, Chalice now more accessible, you know, more sustained damage mid lane is kind of coming into the meta. Orianna was almost expected to make some sort of resurgence. We haven't seen this matchup yet, I don't think.
And we were definitely expecting more Orianna than just Godfrey, who was picking up last week and then this week. Rookie played it earlier today, but it's only been those two to bring out the Orianna, despite the fact that Athene's is such a massive indirect buff to Orianna with the shielding, with the dissonance giving movement speed. Basically 100% of kills in teamfights she's getting assists for. So the 30% extra max mana means she can just put out those spells on cooldowns. It's such a big indirect buff. So of course to Azir as well, who's received a couple of patches of love directly in the patch notes, and also again the indirect buff for Athene. So the control mage is probably just going to be a farm off in the mid lane we'd expect. But Dade definitely has the offensive options. I'm actually surprised to see her tongue not take another bit out of the Godfrey playbook and go for the double mobility summoners even on Orianna. You might think, okay, but why the Ghost? But in general, Orianna's only problem is if she's caught out. So if somehow Dade gets behind her and Emperor's Divider into the middle of a fight, if Urgot gets the swap, there's so many pick initiations, instant cast CC that we already decided, that ghosting around the back of a fight, the Dade special, he's been using that ever since he brought Ziggs and Twisted Fate back into the meta a few years ago, could be super value. And the Ignite, I don't know how often you're going to be in Ignite range as Orianna.
I mean, it's nice that she can at least add extra damage when Dandy comes to gank the lane. So they'll have additional kill pressure there potentially. But I do like the Ghost as well. Orianna just in general gated by positioning. You need to get your ball around the right spots. You need to be standing out of the damage while you navigate your ball around. And Ghost lets you do that so much easier.
And she's unique in that she needs to both position herself defensively and position the ball offensively. Always one of the most interesting champions to cast just because the ball adds another layer. Whenever it's put down, you have to respect the range, to wait for the shockwave. She's got a lot going on. The Ignite summon spell, I guess I can see in terms of a snowball. If they're just smashing Azir in lane between the Fizz and Orianna pressure, it might be valuable, but Azir's just so slippery to begin with, and Orianna doesn't provide much in terms of initiation or damage. Pre-6 and then even level 9, getting 5 points in one of your abilities. Now you have to expect Lupa's going to get all the attention this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Rise. He's picked that matchup for himself. Only got the flash to get away. Teleport, of course, your standard summoners who want to take the game, or the series at least, or at least one game, and push themselves just over the line into playoffs. Janna, the last ban there for Vici, looking good so far. Again, targeting some of that away. Does take it away from Mata, but Mata certainly can play plenty of supports, and we've seen a big shift back towards Nautilus and the like. Cho'Gath, the last ban here, I do like it. Hetong being picked on a little bit, but that will open up everybody's favorite Kalista.
But do you pick Kalista when Urgot is available? SMLZ already a noted Urgot player. They lock it in anyway, and you have to think Urgot's going to come through here for M3.
Yeah, it looks like it as M3. Going to go through a couple more champions. Lupa will flash Rise just for a second. Kind of funny that we talk about Rise being back. Lupa also noted on that champion, so potentially a flex pick there for M3 if they do want to start playing more of it.
I feel like that really opens up Vici to play so aggressive. They already love to overextend for farm. The likes of Vasily, known for years as very aggressive laners. Anything that allows them to react faster than the enemy, Twisted Fate Destiny, the tunnel network coming through from Rek'Sai, gives too much of a strategic advantage to Vici. So these are some really savvy bans coming through from the first two for M3.
And that's what M3 need here if they do play making champions. But we are into the draft here. Vici will start game one off on the blue side, M3 on the red. Sejuani Z banned away there, so already targeting Dade there with a ban in the mid lane. And Rek'Sai and Twisted Fate. Now a must ban against Hetong.
I think global champions in general, of course, Rek'Sai effectively a global champion, especially if you're winning and get that neural network. The tunnel's really in the advantage, and Twisted
already seen the power of Annie today though, and I don't think M3 can pass it up.
I mean, Annie has been right back in the meta, started off the season strong. It's hilarious to me that what was the go-to duo lane in week 1 is once again risen up. It was all about Sivir Annie, and once again Sivir Annie is so popular. It looks like the Annie at least will be locked in.
Wow,
for M3 as well though, Pastry Time.